It's the why that is the estrangement, not the estrangement itself, but the why. I think back to my last conversation that I had with him, and I cannot tell you how many times that I have revisited the moment, how many times I have replayed the entire conversation, trying to find that moment that was the switch, the part that transitioned our relationship. Because quite honestly, I didn't even know that that was the last time. I didn't even realize that that was what was going to be the moment that was going to open up the wound for me, open up the wound to me. Because there was nothing really in that conversation that warranted where the status of our relationship is today. Estrangement was not something that I was even processing for months. I mean, before I even began to consider the dynamics of what this relationship is now, was at least, about 5 months. There was no blowout. There was no, there was no name calling. There was a discussion of frustration, maybe how to live out of that frustration, maybe how to even process the frustration that he was communicating to me, but nothing said that was the last conversation. No, you know, and nobody tells you that when you find yourself being, and I want to say this, being labeled as an estranged parent, that no one tells you that uh, it's not really being estranged that is driving you crazy. It's the why. It's the why that keeps opening up the wound, the why that keeps having you recall the dynamics or recall the conversation or recall what it could have been. What was it? You're so unprepared. No one prepares you for the moment. No one, no one even says that this is something that would come about between you and your child. Um, you know, my relationship, we all have our stories. We all have different circumstances, different situations, different backgrounds. Um, and this channel is not here to blame anyone, to fault anyone. It's really about now that I'm in this situation, right? Now that there is a defined status of the relationship as estranged parent or estranged adult child from me, how do you live out of that? How do you go on? How do you find joy? How do you find peace? How do you find um who you were before it all happened, right? um the turning point just shuffles you. It made me feel like um, I didn't have control, or I lost circumstances that I wasn't aware of or wasn't paying attention to. Um, not angry, not bitter, not feeling as though I have to put responsibility someplace. But it does make you feel like that the why is going to be the um the answer maybe, or the clarity that you need, or even the steps of where you can begin to maybe fix it, right? We all want to fix it. We all want to be able to find the point that if we can make sense of it, we can turn it around, or we can at least meet it or address it or talk about it. Um, because it's the why that keeps you up. It's the why that uh, that has you a changed person, right? Um, it's like walking in a fog. It's like trying to figure out, you know, what is it? What caused it? What was the reason, right? Um, it becomes the center of everything, right? You wake up with it on your mind, you go to bed with it on your mind, you wake up in the middle of the night processing, right? Trying to find that moment, that point that caused the turn. And, everyone has, like I said, who is now being labeled, because that's how I feel. I've been labeled as an estranged parent. Um, but I'm not an estranged parent. I am a parent who has an estranged child, but nevertheless, the relationship is different. The relationship has been identified. I've been identified. Um, and, not something that I asked for, not something that I sought after, and that's something I can easily dismiss. Um, I want to be able to say that, I did what I could, or um, at least be able to meet it head on. Uh, I don't mind having the discussion, but, no contact. There's no contact. There's been no um, effort to, reach out. I have certainly tried. Um, and, we'll talk about all those different circumstances. But, in a nutshell, you know, we went through different holidays with no contact, right? We went through my birthday with no contact. We went through Mother's Day with no contact. It was then that I was beginning to realize that this is a long-term situation. This is a long-term type of, I guess, status of our relationship, right? So now you're dealing with a lot of things. And I know I'm not by myself. Matter of fact, I had no idea that um that I wasn't by myself. I wish I had the resources that are available today. Um and, even looking online and looking at different feeds on different platforms, there's a lot of pain out there. There's a lot of hurt out there. And there is a lot of, questions that have not been answered, right? And when I look to even the professionals to see what is the thing, what is the journey, what is the instructions, where should, I be going to, who should I be talking to, right? Who is it that can help me with this journey. Um, there was nothing like that out there. I mean, you know, people don't really know how to process this. And am I going to say I do? Only thing I can say is that it's been since 2019. Um, and I've been where the emotions were difficult, where the tears just welled up. I told somebody that I became a professional weeper, right? Because I could weep at any moment, right? Just anything that would draw to the fact that my relationship status has changed. And, you know, I really had to come to terms. What was the one thing? What was the one thing that was keeping me paralyzed, frozen in place in life? What was it? And it was the why. It was the why. I didn't know why. Honestly, I didn't know why today. I don't know the why. But what I do realize is that, you know, it, the why may not ever be the why. It may not never give you the clarity. It may never really be the reason, right? Um, the reality is what it is, right? And what it is that the relationship, the one you thought you had, the one that you carried as as a vessel of love, right? It's a vessel of joy, interaction, of communication. Um, that doesn't exist anymore. That was taken along with the estrangement, with the no contact. And so that is the wound. That is what I call the hole in my soul, right? Um, is that the love that I was sharing with my adult child is not in place to receive the love that I have for them, right? Um, and so the wound is the entrapping. The wound is what is defining the estrangement. And that is what I learned how to heal from. I learned how to live even though the wound existed, right? And that's why the other side, right? I'm living from the other side now. It wasn't easy. The first year, if I had to give it a word, if I had to describe it, was bewilderment. Yeah, bewilderment. All the questions, all the unanswered, all the revisiting, all the replaying, right? It was a tough year. It was a tough year. I dare say that I wasn't myself either at that time, that I was struggling with even who I was, right? Who was um dealing with what they call the no contact parent. You know, all these labels up there. You know, there's 12 million. That's the statistic. There are 12 million parents or 12 million situations of no contact, of estrangement. That is at least 12 million parents or one person that is dealing with that separation, with the estrangement. And that number's much larger because we have siblings, right? We have maybe two parents that are involved. We have family, right? When I was growing up, you know, we were a multi-family unit. We all lived very close to each other. Cousins were cousin sisters and cousin brothers, that kind of thing. Um, and now that doesn't exist. Um, and so, everybody says this is trending. Um, and, there are different reasons for it, but there are quite a few that don't know why, simply do not know why. I'm one of those. I don't know why. Um, I am never going to say that I wasn't a good parent. I my friends said that, you know, they could see something special between us because we were so close, right? And so that's what I embraced in our relationship. I'm glad I had it, you know. I'm glad that I can at least say that the experience of the relationship, right? Um, but that doesn't take away from being thrown into a new status of a relationship with your child that you had no control over. And the choice was his. The choice was his. Um, there's layers and layers and layers of how I've come to terms with it, how I am enjoying life today, how that I can still feel that love and still feel that joy. But it came about truly understanding, where was I in trying to heal? Because now I was making a choice. I had to heal from this. I had to live. I had a life that was given to me, and I still had to live that life. And so where do you begin? And understanding what took place. And the only thing I can understand is that the why is my wound, not the estrangement. not the love, not what took place or didn't take place. My wound, the hole in my soul, I name it. Why? Because I don't know the answer to why. And no matter how many times I revisit, I keep going through the loop. I wake up in the middle of the night. The why never gets answered, right? So anyway, I am going to use this channel to talk about my experience a lot because I'm hoping my experience, how I evolved, how I got to the other side, how maybe somebody can take something from what happened with me and how I am living, they can apply in their life. Because there is no one size fits all fix to this. But what I am certain about is that we still have a choice to live. We still have a choice to live. And so, how do you live? How do you live a life that is of the quality that you want to live out of? And to get past, you know, the turn, the point of when you were and you were not anymore, right? And so, um, for me, the beginning was accepting that my wound is the why. And so that's where I began. And that's my starting point. And that's my journey that I talk about. I have resources, I wish I had these resources. I'll link them below. But, you know, if and when you're ever ready, you're welcome to get them. I have a free checklist, of course, to where you can begin because sometimes we need something right now, right? We need something for this moment. And I was there. I remember the angst. I remember not knowing. I remember the tears. I remember nobody being able to help me, right? And so, that's the point of the checklist. And I talk about how to live from the other side with being an estranged parent. And that's in an ebook form. And I went back and I looked at all of my journaling and I recaptured my mom's from beginning to end um, of how I became Aurora, um, the light after the darkest point, right? And again, I'm not claiming to know the answers for everyone. We're talking 12 million people at least, right? I'm not going to say I know the answers for everyone, but what I do know is how I got from point A to point B, where I can laugh, I can smile, I feel love, I have no bitterness, I have no anger, and joy is within me. Is the hole in my soul filled? It's filled differently now. I talk about it. I write on Substack, and it's called Manhole, um, the manhole that exists, right? And so, again, these spaces and places, I'll list everything, in the description below and the links that are accessible, that if you ever want to take a look. But I hope that, if just one person is able to move the needle from where they are, from what I've shared, then that's good, right? Okay, till next time. Thank you. Before I go, please subscribe to the channel. I also welcome your comments, and please share with someone else you may know who may also want to be part of this community. As a free gift, please scan the QR code to take the 7-question 2-minute quiz to receive your Dawn card of where you are in this journey. Thank you.